I'm delighted to join you at this 8th Global Leadership Forum, and I congratulate you on choosing as this year's theme, the biggest question of our time: what will our post-COVID world look like? And I want to start by thanking all those who have contributed to the organization of this important event, and in particular the leader who asked me to speak to you, my friend Professor Lee, whose distinguished career has included his great success in reforming education in the Republic of Korea as Minister of Education, Science and Technology, and his path-breaking work on the Global Education Commission that I had the privilege to chair, and who as an academic and writer is recognized and admired for his innovative research and insights, especially in high-tech, high-touch education, admired not just in this continent, but in every continent. Now, this conference meets at the right time because we're indeed at an inflection point. COVID-19, this microscopic parasite, 10,000 times smaller than a grain of salt, has not only infected 50 million people worldwide, and destroyed more than 1 million lives, but it has made us as individuals come face to face with our own vulnerability and indeed our mortality. And it has wrought more economic havoc, disrupted more trade, killed off more jobs, led to more lost production, caused more company closures than has any modern recession. And it has not only also undermined the cultural and social foundations of our lives, but it is making us rethink the way we live, the way we work, the way we travel, the way we learn, the way we study. In some cases, it is accelerating already underway changes like the online economy. In other cases, exposing age-old problems like poverty and deprivation, which have come to the surface. And in other cases, making what previously seemed impossible, possible. Work is changing as more people work from home and more communicate online. The consumer economy is changing as retail moves online. Public services are changing as we see online education and online health dramatically expand. The social contract is changing as we reframe the rights and responsibilities of individuals and governments. Our ideas of fairness are changing as we recognize we will have to do more to value and reward all those who have been underpaid and under-recognized, especially those running personal one-to-one, face-to-face services like social care, where some of the lowest paid workers in the world have had to take some of the biggest risks. And the jobs we do are changing as IT, logistics, the digital economy, as well as social care have to expand to meet new needs. Our ideas of what is acceptable risk is changing as workers who have been prepared to be zero-hour contract workers and self-employed now seek greater security. Our idea of society is changing, but people who have been isolated know more than ever that being part of a community matters more to them than ever it did. And so each country will have to find its own way forward as it rebalances the relationships between individuals and communities, between markets and states, between risk and security, between freedom and control, between the very rich and the rest, and of course, between man and nature. And education is changing. And this is where I want to focus the rest of my remarks. Indeed, I want to suggest today that because we are now more aware than ever of inequality, of families and children denied opportunity, of the vast gap between the world's education rich and the education poor, there is now no route to the future that does not have education at its center. No route to greater equality of opportunity that does not involve education. No route to more prosperous economies, stronger communities, and fairer societies without investing in education. No route to rebuilding our countries, no route to building back better without the contribution of education, of teachers, trainers, researchers, academics to the common good. So for all these reasons, I have to say to you that the pandemic has robbed millions of children of their future because the education they once enjoyed has been interrupted. Many of whom may never return to school, or even if they do, they may never catch up on their learning. You know, at the height of the pandemic, 1.6 billion children and young people, 90% of the world's pupils and students had their education disrupted. Nearly 1 billion students are still shut out from schools today. And the risk is that short-term school closures will lead to long-term reversals in educational attainment, with the opportunities available to the world's poorest and most marginalized children already diminished and hit even more. Before the pandemic, let us remember 260 million school-aged children did not go to school. 400 million children left education at 11 or 12, never to return. 800 million, half the developing world's children, left education without any usable qualifications for the workplace. And that while the numbers of graduates has increased from 100 million 50 years ago to 400 million in 2000 to 700 million now, even in the 2040s, when children born today will first come of age, 70% of all the adult population of the world will never have the secondary, nor college, nor university qualifications needed for the well-paying jobs the world can offer. In low-income countries today, a staggering 90% of children are in learning poverty, which means they cannot read a basic text by the age of 10. Now, in the last financial crisis, the typical child fell 6 months behind in their educational attainments. But children who are out of school for more than a year are even more unlikely even to return. And in crisis settings, girls are 2.5 times more likely to drop out of school than boys. But missing out on school means millions of children also go hungry. Indeed, during this pandemic, 370 million children have been missing out on free or subsidized school meals, which have often been their only regular source of nourishment. And with families under extreme financial pressure, millions of boys and girls may soon join the 152 million children already forced into child labor. And many girls will join the 12 million girls a year who are forced into becoming child brides. With one estimate suggesting this illiteracy could lose us as a society as much as 10 trillion in future earnings, we are standing by, doing too little, as havoc is reaped by one of the biggest forces accelerating inequality in our generation. Quality education is vital to lift people out of poverty, ensure healthier families, advance racial and gender equality, unlock job opportunities, increase security, and create a more just, peaceful, and sustainable world. And girls' education is a proven link to lowering fertility rates and reducing population growth, which itself is one of the key drivers of climate change. Education, especially of girls, leads to better health. A child whose mother can read is 50% more likely to live past the age of 5, 50% more likely to be immunized, twice as likely to attend school. And so this is why we must come together as a global community and save the future of our children. In response to this crisis, the Education Commission, in partnership with an unprecedented global coalition of international organizations, launched Save Our Future to call for urgent investigation in education to prevent what we call a generational catastrophe. 3 actions are urgently needed. First, we must reopen schools, but make sure they are safe schools. Second, we must prevent what the World Bank and UNESCO estimate could be a funding gap of 200 billion in education budgets in the next year, as countries reallocate resources to health and social welfare. And third, to use available resources to greatest effect, we must be innovative, like creating the International Finance Facility for Education, securing $500 million of grants and government guarantees that could unlock $2 billion of educational investment to be made through the Asian Development Bank and other development banks. And I urge the Korean government to join IFID as a funding donor. And we must use this crisis as an opportunity to transform education. You see, if you think of the monumental changes we have seen in the way we organize our factories, our homes, our hospitals, and our travel, and then think of how little education has changed, with until recently so little online, and how little the school itself has changed from the set of walled classrooms with the teacher as the sage on the stage and the pupils sitting in rows of desks, think of the educational revolution we need as we meet the demand for ever-changing skills, continuous learning, and try to harness technology to support those most left behind. A study published just last year revealed how disparities in learning achievements have not diminished over the last 50 years. The most disadvantaged still perform at levels that are 3 to 4 years behind the most affluent. And we must change this. Online learning became a necessity almost overnight, but yet close to half of the world's pupils and students don't have access to the internet. Across the world, more than 460 million, or almost 1/3 of school-aged children, had not been reached by remote learning at all. So this could be the moment for us to transform education, to create individualized, adaptive learning, meeting children where they are, with personalized learning at scale for every student, not just the lucky few. This is why the Education Commission and its hub in Asia, under the leadership of Joho Lee, are spearheading the high-tech, high-touch for all initiative, combining the power of human touch and interaction from teachers with the power of adaptive learning and technology such as artificial intelligence. The high tech refers to an adaptive technology that can help deliver personalized learning. It identifies prior knowledge and tailors instruction to diverse learning needs, allowing students to be stimulated and nurtured as they progress at their own pace. This can also be done initially in low-tech ways, but artificial intelligence that can allow us to track a child's experience with software-informed data and gear every child's learning to their aptitude is one way forward. The high-touch element is the indispensable human connection provided by teachers. With the use of high-tech, teachers can give more personalized guidance. No longer just the lecturer who's the sage on the stage, but also the tutor and mentor who is the guide by the side. We've already seen the promise of this approach in Asia, in Vietnam, as well as in India. Here in Korea, the HTHT University Consortium, which includes 16 member institutions, provides support to Korean universities that use the HTHT approach in their curricula. And the K-12 Consortium targets low-income students across multiple cities. I'm glad to announce the launch of HTHT for All, a global consortium across governments, edtech innovators, industry providers, and educators that will develop a rigorous evidence base and create a collaborative network to support bold ways to address the digital divide. So let us be the first generation where every child not only goes to school and learns, but feels able to bridge the gap between what they are and what they have it in themselves to become. And let us be the first generation where instead of developing only some of the talents of some of our children in some of the world's countries, we develop all of the talents of all children in all countries. Thank you very much.